Salve Regina, Mater Misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve. A te clamamus, exules filii Eve, a te suspiramus, gemendes efflendes, in ac lacrimam vale. Ea ergo, advocata nostra, y los tuos misericordes oculos, nos converte. Et Iesus, benedictus fructus ventris tui, nobis post hoc exilium ostende. O clement, o pia, o dulcis Virgo Maria. Ora pro nobis Santa Dei Genetrix, ut digni efficiamo promissiones Christi. Gratiam tuam spacimus Domine, mentibus nostris infunde, ut qui angelum nunciante, Christi Filii Tui incarnationem cognovimus, per passionem eius et crucem, ad resurrectionis gloriam perducamur, per eum Deum Christum Dominum nostrum. Wherefore we beseech thee, O Lord, thy grace into our hearts, that we, to him the incarnation of Christ thy Son, is made known by the message of an angel, may by his passion and death be brought to the glory of his resurrection, the same Christ our Lord. Te suplicamos, Señor, que derrames tu gracia en nuestras almas, para que los que por el anuncio del ángel hemos conocido la encarnación de tu Hijo Jesucristo, por su pasión y cruz seamos llevados a la gloria de su resurrección. Por el mismo Jesucristo nuestro Señor. Ven Espíritu Santo, llena los corazones de tus fieles, y enciende en ellos el fuego de tu amor. Envía tu Espíritu y serán creadas todas las cosas, y renovarás la faz de la tierra. Oh Dios, que has instruido los corazones de tus fieles con la luz del Espíritu Santo, concédenos que sintamos rectamente con el mismo Espíritu, y gocemos siempre de su divino consuelo, por Jesucristo nuestro Señor. Amén. Just that. Perfect. Hello, good morning, buenos días. I'm going to get this live chat thing going because I know you have questions and want to make everybody says hello and want to make comments like that, but that was the advantage of doing it on Facebook and there's chat already built into it. But I just need a little help. Pray that I asked for it. Estoy diciendo que necesito un poco de ayuda para activar el live chat para que ustedes puedan mandarme preguntas, peticiones, para que haya más interacción con ustedes. Estoy muy agradecido que están escuchando y también están compartiendo esos temas con personas. La gente me menciona que están escuchando. Qué bueno, porque siempre ha sido una lucha para poder profundizar el conocimiento de lo que hacemos como cristianos, de lo que es ser cristiano. Y eso es nuestra lucha siempre, profundizar. Y esas meditaciones nos permiten hacer. Creo que a causa de esta pandemia, esa crisis está dando a nosotros mucho tiempo para profundizar el conocimiento de fe, para hacer un completo cambio, un total cambio de la vida a la práctica cristiana en nuestra vida, en nuestros días. Y eso es esencial, hermanos. Algún día vamos a abrir las iglesias como antes, ahorita no. Estamos mirando que no tenemos nada en control, nomás podemos calmar el avance del virus, pero puede surgir en cualquier momento que no estamos tomando cuidados. Por eso, tener paz. Y queremos restaurar la vida normal, pero la vida normal, en verdad, hermanos, no estaba muy bien. Con nuestras actividades, nuestras prioridades. Es un tiempo también para reorganizar la economía, para hacer una economía muy justa, en donde todos los que trabajan tienen lo que necesitan. Y los que no pueden trabajar también pueden hacer algo, lo que pueden. Porque tenemos un estándar muy extraño de poder vivir en la sociedad y compartir con todo. Básicamente, si tú puedes proveer algo, nosotros quitamos de lo que tú provees para proveer para muchas más cosas. Y siempre ha sido así. Y no todos comparten como pueden. Hay muchas injusticias en ese sentido. No es una sociedad que en verdad está unida en todos niveles de los de ingresos y de gastos y necesidades. Y podemos hacer grandes ajustes, cambios, para que no haya tanto estrés, que la vida no sea tan estresante para el pueblo. Mucho más calma para tener mucho más práctica de la fe y también más tiempo para poder proclamar esta fe y hablar más de Cristo en vez de buscar diversiones. Ya podemos de veras ser una comunidad que celebra Cristo, que celebra el amor de Dios Padre en Jesucristo. At this time, I mean, the pandemic is, we pretty much did a self-imposed, it's a self-imposed crisis in that sense, because we see the threat to so many of our people, and we don't want to repeat what happened 100 years ago with the influenza crisis, or was happening in many countries that did not have the resources to be able to calm down and to to control or to reverse the effects of viruses. And so we were aggressive about it, and we've succeeded in one thing, just calming it down. But as you see, very quickly it can come back up if we're not careful. And the thing is, this whole entire time of the self-imposed crisis was necessary for us. And God has given us this chance to really deepen our understanding of faith. That's why I love doing these little talks. I was never attracted to this before, but immediately when the pandemic began, I began doing these. And here I am still doing it. Okay. And I'll get better at this and better technology. Maybe have a little room for a studio or whatever, so it's a little more professional, etc. Uh, but if I never do any of that, I'm very grateful that you do listen and that you share what I'm saying to many people, so that people can deepen their experience of the Christian life and what it is to be a Christian. Because that's the one thing that God has given to us during this pandemic, is a desire to deepen Christian living. Even though everyone wants to get back to normal, I've noticed that even when given a chance, most people are still staying calm and safe and at home. It's when somebody does something stupid that they can bring even to a people who are calm and safe, a family that's been self-quarantined, have been very careful. All you need is one person to bring the virus in to a family gathering where people are not protecting themselves because they haven't had to when they're around their own family. All of a sudden, everybody in the family gets it. Okay, that kind of foolishness that we don't need. We need to be constantly mindful. If I'm out and about, doing things, like you and I have to visit the sick, and I have to do a lot of different things. Reminds me of some sick calls I have to make today. That I've got funerals, at the services here. I need to take care of people. For that reason, my mom won't let me see her. I keep asking, hey, can I come by? I'll just stand at the door and wave. She goes, no, no thanks. So my brother and sister, my sister works for the prisons and my brother works at a market. Okay. And so they're around people too, but they get to go see her. I don't. I saw my parents at a funeral, and that was good enough. They understand that I go into more dangerous situations, and they also know that I'm the crazy child that they have that will do that. So I have to be much more careful, and I am. I, I got tested again, so I haven't heard back yet. No symptoms, and so I'm feeling good, but still I have to be very careful. Test frequently, so I know that I'm still doing right, and I haven't taken too many risks. Be very careful. When I do things, I do things on my own. Okay? I'm mentioning this because the essence of being a community is what Christ was trying to form all of humanity to be. But starting with these group of followers who embrace the understanding that God is love, and love has conquered sin and death, and that everything that frightens us in this world has already been conquered by love, and that when we embrace this love, we neither fear sin nor death. A lot of people are afraid of sin, which is why we punish it terribly. People sin, we hurt them badly. We figure that if we hurt them badly enough, they'll stop sinning. It doesn't work. Uh, they have to be invited into love, and then they will choose not to sin. And it always has to be choice. Now, there's certain people who are very bedeviled, um, demon possessed. Still, they must be conquered with love. And I've seen it done. And that's why the ritual of exorcism in the church is a ritual of love. There are denunciations of the devil, but most of it is a proclamation of the love of God for the person who has been possessed in some way. And I'm not talking only about the big exorcisms. You're going to guess that, yes, I'm going to be dealing with exorcisms pretty soon. First, the Eucharist. And then I'm going to get into this whole thing because in the Didache, the book that we've been reading, the next section after the Eucharist goes into basically the order of the church. But when I read it to you, you're going to see that it's really geared towards getting people out of sin, which is the only objective of the church, to get people out of sin. That's our work, to bring people out of sin. We do so many other things, though, that are very helpful to society, uh, but they're not necessarily getting people out of sin. Even when we educate children in Catholic schools, they're not necessarily getting out of sin. I know Catholic schools that have more non-Catholic students than Catholic because they're excellent private schools, well run, well managed, smaller classroom sizes, they have excellent education. And so people from other religions or no religion at all will send their children, and the children are not learning not how to sin. They're learning a lot of other things, but they're not being encouraged not to sin. So for me, that's a waste of resource and energy and time. It doesn't make sense. When I was gifted with a Catholic school in my last parish, we focused on these things. This is what we're about as Christians. And then we can learn all the other things and put them to good use with the knowledge that at any moment I could fall into sin if my mind is not focused on the Lord. This is the Christian way of doing things. We just don't do good things. We are focused on bringing people out of darkness into light, out of sin into life. So, celebrations of the Holy Eucharist, that's also our aim and goal. Which is why a lot of times going to Mass just kind of doesn't do anything for anybody. because you're still in your sin, sitting in those benches, listening and waiting for something to pull you out of your sin, to pull you out of your darkness. If you don't hear it, if you don't receive that word, then the church has not done its work. This is what our business is about. And we miss this too much. We want to deal with the problems of the world, but all the problems of the world are based on the fact that people are still living in the darkness. They're still in their sin. So your job and mine is to do this, to pull them out, to bring them out. And thank God, the economy is in danger. Thank God our society is in deep struggle and conflict. Because there you see the sin clearly. The Satan has been pulled out and revealed to the world. Our evils, our hatreds of each other are laid bare. We may like the fact that we used to cover it up pretty good by everybody having enough money to be able to pay their bills, etc., etc. But no, God is not contented with that. God is never content. God is ferociously in love with us. He wants to pull us out of our sin and our darkness. Es algo muy importante, hermanos, que estamos viviendo esta realidad en este mundo, en este tiempo, porque nuestro anhelo es, de veras, sacar a la gente de las tinieblas para vivir en la plena luz, de la muerte del pecado para la vida que no se acaba. Eso es lo que nosotros tenemos como nuestro reto. Es la única cosa porque existe el cristiano. Y hemos visto que la iglesia ha hecho muchísimas cosas muy bonitas en el mundo. Las artes, las bellas artes, las ciencias, la educación, toda clase de todo lo que hace hombre. Pero no siempre está guiado, enfocado en sacar la gente de la muerte del pecado a la vida, en la luz de Cristo. O sea, yo he estado en preparatorias, escuelas católicas, donde la mayoría de los estudiantes no son católicos, no están dedicados a Cristo, pero es una escuela católica. Y tristemente, los estudiantes están aprendiendo muchas cosas, son excelentes escuelas para la educación de los estudios humanos y las ciencias, etc. También lugares seguros donde la moralidad está protegiendo a los chicos porque la gente con dinero demandan a sus hijos aunque no sean del mismo religión. Pero esos chicos no están aprendiendo cómo salir del pecado y de la fosa de la muerte para vivir en la luz, la vida que es eterna. Y por eso es todo lo que hacemos. Los hospitales también, todo. No tiene su sentido, no tiene su propósito para existir. Si no está educando, que significa guiando. Yo tengo la lámpara, está todo oscuro, sígueme. Aquí está la luz, sigue la luz. Vamos a salir de esa tiniebla, de esta oscuridad. Eso es lo que es educación. Salir de las tinieblas a la plena luz. Eso es porque existe la iglesia, especialmente las celebraciones eucarísticas. La celebración de la Eucaristía, la misa, para nosotros es esto. Yo debo recibir y oír lo que necesito para sacarme de mis tinieblas. Porque muchos llegan a la iglesia, y gracias a Dios que han llegado a la iglesia, los pocos que llegan a la misa. Pero todavía estamos en la oscuridad. Necesitamos la palabra para sacarnos de la tiniebla. Y mire, eso es porque los cristianos, en el principio, se reunieron todos los días. Pero fue tan fácil, en un instante, caer de nuevo en pura tiniebla, en pecado. Muy fácil. la Eucaristía cada día, cada noche. Para ellos fue la restauración, la palabra que los sacó de la fosa de la muerte de nuevo, del peligro de caerse en esas tumbas y regresar a la vida de antes. Tristemente, venimos a misa, luego entramos al mundo de la vida que tenemos fuera de Dios, donde hacemos mucha actividad que no le sirve. Cristiano, ese es el tiempo, hermano, que nunca más vayamos a devolver a lo que vivimos antes. La economía está mal, qué bueno. Para reorganizar la economía, para de veras ayudar a todos, de salir de esas tinieblas, de tener esperanza. Si una persona está totalmente preocupada de su seguridad de pan, su seguridad de no tener que sufrir tanta violencia, de estar en un lugar de paz, de no tener miedo, de que en un instante puede llegar una persona del gobierno para sacarlo del país, del lugar, o un arresto, por quién sabe por qué. Teniendo esta paz es muy importante para poder profundizar también la presencia de Cristo. Esa es la oportunidad que tenemos ahora, en ese tiempo de crisis. Tal de poder abandonar todas las distracciones y diversiones que nos sirven para. Y vamos a ver cómo la sociedad está revelando todo lo malo que está pasando entre nosotros. En verdad, esta crisis ha revelado el rostro de Satanás, como se ha manifestado secretamente en todos lugares. No hemos dado cuenta. Satanás está apareciendo en tantos diferentes lugares. Y aquí estamos para denunciar su presencia y llamar a la gente a vivir en la luz. Pero no hay ninguna póliza que puede correr a Satanás. Solamente cada persona renunciando. Vale. La Eucaristía, como estaba hablando, con la sencillez de la Eucaristía, la reunión, las palabras que usamos, muy pronto empezó de tener una forma normal. Pues esa es una forma que en lo que yo leí de la doctrina de los 12 apóstoles, del didaqué. Sí, es una forma básica. Escuchamos la palabra, cantamos, etc. Después de compartir la palabra, es ofrecer de pan y vino, después agradecimientos, etc. Algo muy sencillo. Muy más importante es reunirse para practicar, hablar y renovarse y enfrentar las tinieblas dentro de uno mismo. ¿Vale? Pero muy pronto, con el crecer, había mucho más forma, una formalidad, en una estructura más restringida donde la gente no siempre tenía tiempo para compartir. La primera cosa que sufrió es que quitaron el compartir de los individuos en estas comunidades y el líder del grupo, el presbítero, ya empezó de hablar de parte de la gente. Y eso es mi rol como sacerdote. En todas las oraciones, mis acciones, yo represento a la gente. Lo que ustedes están pensando, sintiendo. En vez de dejarles a ustedes decir. Pero ese fue un hecho solamente para ser más regulada y básicamente más breve, más el rito, más breve la celebración, en vez de ser algo que puede durar 2, 3 horas, es algo muy breve, dentro de 1 hora. porque había tantas personas. Y como vemos, tenemos tantas diferentes horas para la reunión cristiana, porque ya está pasado que hay un presbítero, sacerdote, que está haciendo toda esta obra de hablar de parte de Pedro. Ese es el gran cambio que ocurrió, hermanos. Y no puedo poner bastante énfasis en esto. Porque sí, el sacerdote representa a Cristo, representa a la iglesia, ¿eh? Pero en verdad no hay nadie que puede tomar el lugar de Cristo presente y tomar el lugar del pueblo, de la iglesia. No debe ser una sola persona que representa todo. Pero es lo que hemos hecho con, no solamente con sacerdotes católicos, los pastores en las otras iglesias, en otras sectas, es la misma cosa. El pastor representa todo, representa a Cristo, representa al pueblo. Es como lo que hubo en el Antiguo Testamento, con Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moisés en particular, eventualmente por los profetas. Bueno, en verdad, los profetas solo representaron a Dios, no representaron al pueblo. Después, los reyes, etc. Pero no hay nadie que en verdad que pueda tomar el lugar de la reunión de los fieles, de las personas, los individuos, ustedes. No hay nadie. Y que ese presbítero y el líder tiene que sacar del pueblo lo que están ofreciendo, lo que quieren ofrecer, lo que están liberas batallando. Si un sacerdote algún día tomara bastante tiempo para deberes preguntar a cada persona qué son sus cuestiones, qué son sus retos, dificultades, qué son sus necesidades, sus preocupaciones, de los 500, 1000 personas allá presentes. Tomaría todo el día para hacer esto, pero qué bueno sería. Imagínense teniendo esto. Es porque Cristo desde el principio intentaba que nosotros nos reuniéramos en grupos de como 50 más. Familias que viven todos los días juntos esto. Esa fue la idea de lo que es la parroquia. Ser una asamblea pequeña de conocidos, viviendo diariamente esta fe. Pero pronto porque de crecer rápido y todo. Y no bastante líderes formados, pues ya empezamos a organizar diferentemente, servicios más breves, el enfoque es el presbítero, el sacerdote. Y es que empezó a dominar, en verdad, la vida cristiana. Los que fueron elegidos para ser los presbíteros. Y al principio el pueblo escogió. Y después fue ordenado por el obispo. Pero después llegó a ser el obispo que escogió hombres para representar a todo. Ese gran cambio, hermanos, se ocurrió muy rápido en la iglesia. Estoy hablando dentro de 100, 200 años, especialmente después del año 313, cuando legalizaron la iglesia y hicieron la iglesia la fe, la religión del imperio romano. Eso es cuando todo cambió rápido. Ya empezó a tener la forma de un gobierno y todo lo que pasó así. Y la víctima fue el pueblo de Dios que no podía en la celebración eucarística, donde debe pasar esas cosas, compartir cada persona, revelando lo que Dios está haciendo en su vida, lo que necesita. Es un gran cambio. Y voy a hablar de más cambios en esos días para comprender lo que estamos ahora tratando de ser. Estamos haciendo la lucha para corregir nuestros errores y regresar de nuevo a esta vivencia cristiana, pero todavía necesitamos mucho trabajo. Pues, déjeme hablar de esto, lo que acabé de decir en español, en inglés, y después su benedicción. Vamos a continuar con más cosas en esos días. Okay, so I went long. But basically, I covered in Spanish what I need to cover for today. So after Sunday, man, my voice is shot. So the celebration of the Eucharist was always supposed to be the reunion of the people, like I said, every night, to be able to express what God is doing in them. And this was the essential thing that Christ said to do: gather in my name. But because of the growth of the church so quickly, and not enough proven leaders, that the reliance on the particular person who was leading the group, the presbyter, the, some people say the elder, but it's not an elder in terms of years. It's the person who is the most proven to be the most worthy. At the beginning, the priest, or I should say the presbyters, they weren't called priests yet, were chosen by the people. They literally would elect that person, and then the bishop would, the apostle, would anoint them as that particular community's leader. It's not like a vote was taken. It was more like, what about the so and so? And then they would literally debate. They would discuss each other, and the person himself would have to like be honest if they're really worthy of this position. You know, if they knew they could do it or not. And so that's, because it's a great deal of responsibility as well as authority in the group. But quickly that was even that was taken away from the people because the need of leaders, because there were so many people coming in to the faith. So they had to develop a whole new structure. Now, the Eucharist could last 2 or 3 hours, 50 people discussing their lives and sharing, and then coming to that point towards the end of after all that sharing, and then the words of Jesus and what he did, the breaking of the bread and the sharing of the one bread and one cup, and then going on to going back to homes or going to bed or whatever. But it was what they did every night. It wasn't supposed to be a common meal. It wasn't supposed to be a family time. It was serious work every single night. This is the only way for a Christian to stay a Christian. Doing this every single night. We can't avoid it. Or else we're going to let other things get into our heads. TV watching and game playing and watching sports or doing sport. I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing and stuff like that, but it becomes an obsession, a daily thing. Think about what you watch and everything. And what do you do with your hours? Really to be sincere about this. Am I really using the time in the evening that God wants us to use? He's always asked us to use from the very beginning to really contemplate Him, understand Him, and talk about Him, especially to the people we live with. But quickly, because of the growth of the church, that just got separated from the people. It was taking too long. We have so many people now. It's hard to hear everybody, So then the leader, the presbyter, becomes the focus. Okay? And they begin to speak on behalf of everybody. That's exactly what a priest does. That's what I do. That's my job, is to speak on behalf of everybody. This was not the plan of Christ. Okay? Out of necessity, we do this to be able to have some kind of celebration in a limited amount of time. Pope St. John Paul II wrote a letter. At the time we thought it was groundbreaking in the sense of, oh my gosh, a certain amount of time we should be spending at Mass. It says, during the week, 30 minutes, Monday through Saturday morning. But on Sunday, Saturday evening and Sunday day, it has to be at least an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. Well, for an early Christian, that's just a warm up. That was just them singing and praising God and hearing word, and then it really brought out, what is God doing? And they do this every night. Some nights we've got other nights, but nevertheless, it's every night thing. And we can barely get through an hour. And what do we do right after we've done with going to Mass? Go back into the world to live in the world. We don't take what we have received necessarily and carry it into the world. We go and do what the world asks us to do, spend money, go to this place, do this thing. No, I mean, many families do make good use of the day of the Lord for family time, to go visit people, to take care of business they have to take care of, that's family business. Very good things. But to have set down hours together in a community of believers and to really discuss what God is doing. That's what Eucharist was about. That's what Jesus left us. That's all he left us. He says, just do this. And you'll be able to see great differences in yourself, but also people will notice that people will want to come into the same thing, and then they'll form a new community to do the same thing. But very quickly, the leadership in these communities, which was normally elected by the people, the community itself would choose who their presbyter was going to be, and then the bishop or apostle would anoint them. But the people would choose from amongst themselves who's going to be our leader. And they were the leader until they died, or they couldn't be leader anymore, or they did something terrible, or they had to be replaced. But that person was part of that community and would lead them, but helping them to pull out of themselves. What is the living God doing in me? But quickly the leader became the focus. The leader spoke on behalf of the people. The people didn't speak up anymore. They just went there and listened. They prayed, yes, but that's not what Jesus left us to do only. To really speak up with each other and hold each other together every single day. That still is the plan of Christ. It hasn't changed. We changed. We became so big, you know, especially after the year 313, when the church became not only legalized, but it became the religion of the Roman Empire. Well, that killed it all, because now we just had droves of people coming in, and the church began to look like the government. And it was very organized, very beautiful, nice organizations, institutions, and everything like that. And then the people no longer elected their leaders. It was the bishop, the apostle, who came and chose who was going to be the leader. And so they began to separate these leaders from the community itself, because they were in charge of leading them in their worship services. They were no longer necessarily men of that community. I mean, anybody can learn to be a part of the community, but it wasn't what Christ left us. And these are adaptations we made because of the circumstances. We intend to know evil, okay? That's not what we're talking about here. It's just the reality of not staying with the original plan of Christ and moving on to human efficiency. You know, what do we need to do to get things done? That's our mentality, right? The mentality of Christ was always God provides. We need to stay together and work to stay together, to remain united, to speak of Him to each other. And He'll provide with what we need, including the new leaders that will need to come up in every small community. This is kind of where we're at. And we've been trying for the last 100 years, actually more like 130 years, since the First Vatican Council. It was called specifically for this reason, to deal with the modern world. And how are we going to deal with the fact that we're in democracies now, and there's socialism coming up, and a more severe and a stronger, more violent form of socialism called communism. These are things that were already happening. Riots in the streets constantly, and the beginning of wars, big wars, not just a couple of two countries going to war with each other and having some battles. And, then they have a peace. No, these were big things that like total destruction of entire just and taking place within the area where people actually lived instead of just on some battlefield outside. This is just crazy. So, uh, but this is the thing about what the Eucharist is always meant to be. It's always meant to be that thing that kept us together. But now it's been made into something that, well, we have to get it done. So we need to get as many people as we can at a time, and then again, and then again. And the priest becomes the focus, the presbyter. It wasn't called a priest yet, but the presbyter. He becomes the focus. And he just speaks on behalf of everybody. He speaks on behalf of God, he speaks on behalf of people. It wasn't supposed to be his job necessarily, but that's what happened. So this is what is the next stage in the development of the Eucharist. And I'm going to go into some, I'm going to keep going into this more through this week as we grow throughout the centuries, okay, what's happening, what's going on. But I do want to mention again, the thing is, the church does so much good, right? But not always calling people out of darkness. Okay? All right, friends. Thank you for being attentive. I'll see you tomorrow morning for more stuff, okay? Your blessing. La bendición. Benedica vos omnipotens Deus, Pater, Filius, et Spiritus Sancti, desciende super vos et vesas familias, en contra toda malicia e enfermedad. Peace be with you. God bless you, everybody. La paz, hermanos. Dios bendiga.